Hey guys, this is Bruce from Pray for Sound, and I am messing with my HX Stomp, and I thought I'd put together a little video to show how I use it in Pray for Sound and share a preset that can get you pretty close to what I sound like in the band. So, first of all, the way I normally use HX Stomp, I have a distortion pedal. It's an Electric Audio Experiments longsword. I use that in the effects loop. I also have a delay pedal that I run a Strymon timeline up front right before the HX Stomp. I do like my delays before distortion, by the way. Um, and then the last thing to keep in mind is I normally run the HX Stomp into a 2 power amp and out a 212 cab. So I usually wouldn't run an IR, but I have one here so that you can, not have to require a 2 power amp and a cab, and be able to record direct and that sort of thing. Um, so I went ahead and already replaced the effects loop block, which I would usually use with a distortion block model that I got pretty close to sounding like the longsword that I use. Um, so that's this block right here. Uh, so I'm using a Timmy model. I've got the gain at 8.7, a little bit of EQ cuts, clipping it up, and the level at 10. So that gives me my main distortion sound. So we'll leave that off. But next up, I have another Timmy block. This replaced real Timmy on my pedal board, and I just used this one for a little bit of gain, again some EQ tweaks, and a little bit of a boost. So this is closer to like a clean. It's not clean. It's a slightly overdriven boost sound. Sometimes I'll use them combined to get some really heavy stuff. Sometimes I just use this one to just get a little bit of a boost and kind of do light overdrive solos, that sort of stuff. Um, and then next I have my amp block. So I am using a Matchstick Channel 1 model, which is a matchless amp. I think it's a DC30. I've never actually used a DC30, but I have liked this preset or this model quite a bit. I've got the channel drive on 1.7, so pretty low. Bass at 6, cut at 7.1, treble at 0.7. So I find that this is a pretty bright model, and I like a bright sound, but all of these EQ values don't look like I'm looking for that kind of sound. This works for me. Presence at 0. I have a presence knob on my actual power amp, so you might have better luck playing with this a little bit. Channel volume and master both at 10. Sounds good to me. I don't know. Sag at 6, and then the rest of these are at 5. I think these are the default settings from the model. I don't mess with those very often. And so next I have an IR. I am using an IR I purchased. It's a Tweed Deluxe Celestian Blue with the SM57. I think probably right on, it doesn't say, right on the cone, probably 0 or 1 inch away from the speaker. And then all these are default values. So you could get rid of this block. I'm gonna leave it for now, but you could get rid of it, and then you have space to add a delay to replicate the timeline I'm using. I would suggest using like a tape delay model, just because that's usually the algorithm I'm using on this timeline. So if you were going to replace that with a built-in cab, I would probably go for maybe one of these 212s. There's a couple 212 matchless cabs that might work. Maybe this Bluebell which I assume is a Celestian Blue. And then I would experiment maybe with some of the V30 models. I haven't actually messed with many of these cabs, so I'm not gonna select a specific one you should use. I would just try to play with them and see what you think sounds good. So next I have my Ambient Reverb, which I use for like a select few parts and songs. I'm using the double tank model, which I think is modeled a model of the Mr. Black Supermoon, which is a pedal I was using before. I don't know if it's an exact model of that, but it sounds similar. The nice thing that you have here that you don't have on the actual pedal is separate rate and modulation controls. I like a little bit of a slower rate with a higher modulation percentage. I've got the decay on 7 and the pre-delay, a little bit of pre-delay at 4 milliseconds. The rate at modulation rate at 15%, modulation at 22%, mix at 58%. I do bring down the level again a little bit just because this can get overwhelming. And then the high cut is really important. This model can get pretty bright. Trails on. And then lastly, I have this mostly always on spring reverb, pretty subtle. Decay at 3. It's the 63 spring, sorry, not just the regular spring. I don't even know the difference. I think I just picked one and it sounded fine to me, so that's the one I'm using. I think most of these settings are defaults. So just the mix is 32 and the decay at 3 are the main points here. And like I said, this is almost always on. Once in a while for like songs with hard cuts, like the end of They Gave Up Looking, I believe I turn it off. And so just to kind of circle back, I do use a different preset for every song. As you can see over here, these are the ones we've been playing lately. And they have VHT in the name because that's the power amp I'm using with these. So I'll switch to some of these. I do tailor all of these for the specific song, so I might vary some of the settings just slightly, but they're all based on that template we just looked at. And again, effects loop instead of distortion block and no cab block. I also delete any blocks that I don't actually use in the song. Some of these I do some subtle stuff, so I think here is for the intro of the mountain. I've got like a lo-fi effect that I do with this chorus block at the end, and this block is a megaphone. Some of these have, this one has an EQ block. I think I'm just using this essentially as a mute. I got no low cut and no high cut. I'm just trying to see if, so some of these do have a little bit of variation. This one has a delay block. After my distortion section, I'm probably just going for something a little bit more subtle there. I know some of these have a looper block as well. Oh yeah, for the end of I've Seen Hell and It's White, I've got a wah that I use, and this is all automatically controlled via MIDI. So I don't have to actually have a wah controller on my board. Pretty much all based on that template I showed you, and I'll find a way to share this preset so that you can play around with it and try to get some sounds that sound similar to our sound. That's how I use the HX Stomp in my rig. It's pretty much the center of my pedal board. I'd be pretty screwed without it, and I really like the sounds that come out of it, and its simplicity. It's a great little device, so highly suggested. Again, I'll put a link or something somewhere to this preset, and maybe I'll include an actual picture of my pedal board as well, just so you can kind of see what I've got going on. But this will cover you. So thanks for watching, and see you later.